Hello and welcome to another episode of AI Buzz. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is going to be a series that's going to step through a couple of things that you're going to want to be doing if you want to start a career in data, whether that's data science, data analytics, or data engineering. There are a lot of different terms for the different positions for a career in data, and very often there's not a super clear boundary on the difference between them. All these positions I just mentioned should have a working knowledge of what each other do. They're very intertwined. So this video is going to cover some of the first steps that I would take if you want to start making a career within data. And the first thing I would start with is start to learn the end-to-end process of solving a data problem. Learn what it means to create a data product. I'm going to go over 3 ways that you can accomplish this, and at the end of each of these, you're going to have a tangible product that you'll be able to speak to, and you will learn a lot about this process. So the first one's probably the most simple, but it's going to be a great product to show off, and this might be one that you'd start with if you are just starting out. The overall goal of this particular project is going to be find a data set and try to derive some insights out of it. So there's a couple different ways you can go about finding a data set. The first might be just going over to the UCI machine learning repository, browsing through a couple of those and finding one that looks interesting to you. Another one might be checking out some APIs. Popular APIs include weather data or news stories, social media data, things like that. There's so many APIs out there, and a lot of them are free, and you can pull this data in, build a data set out of it, and try to analyze it. So however you procure your data set, learn how to clean this data set. And what exactly does that mean? Essentially, you're looking for ways that you can ensure that the integrity of this data set is good. You're going to want to find ways that you can automate going through each of the columns in your data set to see if one column has a lot more blank values than the rest. How are all these blank values in this one particular column going to affect the outcome of your analysis? Does one of your columns have an extremely high variance? What is variance? So step through this analysis and let your mind ask these questions and then answer these questions. As you come up with answers to these questions, add these as comments within either your Jupyter notebook or your Python script file. In order to answer a lot of these questions, you're going to want to use a visualization library like Matplotlib or Seaborn. These are going to help you visualize things like correlation amongst features, creating heat maps. I absolutely love heat maps. I think those are extremely valuable. So with this approach, you're going to find a data set. Potentially through API calls, you're going to get familiar with the requests library. You're then going to clean this data set using a library like Pandas or NumPy, something like that. And then for visualization, you're going to use Matplotlib or Seaborn. Your final product should be a Jupyter notebook where you have found a data set and you've derived and added some additional value to it. And you're going to have a theory about how you're adding value. You're going to prove it with your visualizations, and you're going to back it up with the data and facts. So this next project idea is more advanced, but in my opinion, it's an even better showcase of your skills. Try to build a small application that's centered around data. So building a small Flask web application is great for this. By building it with a web framework such as Flask, it's going to allow you to open up this product to others if you do it right. I know that I always got really fired up with the thought of other people using my product. This motivated me to push through and make this product even better because there will be a lot of challenges with doing this, and if you are motivated, then it'll help. So let me give you an example of a product that I made a couple years ago that I was able to talk about in interviews. I made a dashboard web application where users could see some of the latest news stories that were happening today. They're pulled in through a news API. And the users could then provide their input on if they liked the news stories and wanted to see more of it, or if they did not. I ended up doing some natural language processing on the stories that would come in, and that would allow me to extract out the keywords, and then based on the user's preferences, I would either suggest more or less of that type of story. So this is definitely not a revolutionary idea. It's actually already been done by Google News, except much more poorly executed than Google News. However, it was an incredible experience, and I had an absolute blast making this product. And at the end, I even had a handful of users that were on it. Through this project, I learned so much about web applications, web frameworks, databases, calling APIs, and machine learning. If you are interested in building this type of project, comment down below if you want to see a video of how you might go about doing this, and I could even step through some of what I've done in the past. The last suggestion I have for building working knowledge within the data field is to participate in Kaggle competitions. You don't need to be placing well in these. Those who do really well in these Kaggle competitions are typically extremely experienced data scientists, physicists, mathematicians. You don't need to be beating them by any stretch, but by participating, you're going to be learning a lot about the data science process. And by being part of that community, you're going to be able to learn from these more experienced scientists. And especially in the media like forums and kernels, you can ask questions if you want. So definitely be asking questions, and if you're lucky enough, try to find a more experienced person to team up with. You can form teams in Kaggle competitions and try to learn from this more experienced person. In the end, ideally, you'll have a pretty solid knowledge of what it means to solve a data science problem end to end. You're going to be cleaning the data, you're going to be mining it for insights, and then you're going to be trying to make predictions to score well. So all of these 3 project ideas are going to be feeding into my main point of this video, which is in order to start a data career, you really are going to want a portfolio that you can talk to. By portfolio, I mean either a website where you showcase some of your code and perhaps a blog post or something, as well as a presence on GitHub. You must be doing this these days, and by doing one of these project ideas, that's going to give you some original code that's centered around solving a data problem you can then put onto GitHub and you can showcase. This portfolio is going to show the technical interviewers that you actually know your stuff. Make sure the code that you commit to Git is actually clean and commented, and that you also really understand it. It's not unheard of for interviewers to ask specific questions about your code, or even ask why you chose to code something a particular way. A portfolio is absolutely going to be getting you interviews, and if you're able to speak coherently about it, it's going to get you jobs in this field. I covered 3 ways that you can get data project experience that's going to result in code that you're able to add to your portfolio. And try to remember to enjoy this process of building a portfolio. That's another way that you can really see that this field might be right for you, is if you enjoy working on these types of problems, they should really leave you energized and excited rather than exhausted. Stay tuned for the next video in this series, and let me know what you thought of this type of video in the comments section below. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye.